She looked at me across the fence, eyes steady, lips parting just enough to let the words slip out. You'd have been a wonderful husband. For a moment, the air stilled as if the whole neighborhood was holding its breath. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I didn't know what else to do. My chest tightened. I was 34 and no one had ever said that to me. Not even the women I'd once thought I loved. And here was Sophia, my 51-year-old neighbor, telling me something that felt less like a compliment and more like a truth I wasn't ready to carry. My name's Ethan. I moved into this house almost a year ago after my marriage plans fell apart. No wife, no kids, just a mortgage and a job that kept me busy enough not to think too much. Sophia lived 2 doors down. From the first week, she was different from the other neighbors. Not nosy, not overly friendly, just present. She had this quiet elegance, like someone who had weathered storms and learned to keep her back straight through all of them. That night, it started simple. I saw her struggling with a heavy box on her porch. I offered to help, carried it inside, and before I knew it, we were talking in her kitchen. The house smelled faintly of cinnamon, the kind of scent that makes you feel at ease without realizing it. She poured us tea and our conversation drifted from small talk, gardens, neighbors, the never-ending construction on the highway to pieces of her life she rarely shared. She told me she'd been a widow for almost a decade. Her husband had been a good provider, she said, but their marriage was more about duty than love. She didn't say it bitterly. She said it like someone who had already made peace with the past. I found myself telling her about my own failures, the engagement that never turned into a wedding, the jobs I quit when they stopped feeling like something worth waking up for. It was after my clumsy confession. After I admitted I sometimes felt like life had already passed me by that she said it. You'd have been a wonderful husband. Her voice didn't waver. She didn't smile to soften it. She just let it hang between us. I tried to brush it off, but my hands shook slightly as I lifted my cup. I felt exposed, like she'd looked straight through the version of me I usually showed the world and seen the man beneath. The man who wanted more, who wanted to matter to someone. We sat in silence after that. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet, the kind of quiet that can either soothe you or remind you of how alone you are. She leaned back in her chair, her eyes distant as though she was remembering something or someone. I finally found my voice. That's a strange thing to say. She met my eyes again and there was no apology in hers. It's not strange if it's true. I didn't know what to do with that truth. Part of me wanted to walk away to chalk it up to an odd moment between lonely neighbors. But another part of me, stronger than I wanted to admit, felt something shift inside. When I left her house that evening, I couldn't stop replaying her words. They echoed in my head all the way home, followed me into bed, haunted me in the dark. I wasn't in love with her. At least that's what I told myself. But something had begun, something I couldn't name yet. And the worst part, I wanted to hear her say it again. I tried to convince myself her words didn't matter. People say strange things when they're tired, when memories slip into their sentences. But the truth is, I couldn't shake it. Every time I saw Sophia in her garden or walking to her car, the phrase echoed, "You'd have been a wonderful husband." A few nights later, I found myself on her porch again. She had invited me over for coffee, though it was already past 8. The house looked warm from the street, a glow spilling through the curtains, soft music drifting out like it was trying to lure me in. Inside, she moved with that calm grace of hers, setting mugs on the table. "I didn't scare you the other night, did I?" she asked, her eyes glancing up with just enough mischief to make me wonder if she regretted saying it. "You surprised me," I admitted, but scared. "No," she laughed. Quick, breathy sound. "That's good. I've spent too many years keeping things inside. Sometimes I forget how it sounds when I finally let them out." Over coffee, she shared more pieces of herself, about how she had been married young, how her husband traveled constantly, how the silence at home became so normal she hardly noticed until he was gone. She spoke about her daughter who lived 3 states away, too busy with her own life to call more than once a month. And she spoke about the nights, the long ones, when the house felt like it was pressing down on her chest. Listening to her, I realized how little I really knew her. To the neighborhood, Sophia was the elegant widow, always put together, always polite. But behind those walls, she carried a loneliness that weighed more than anyone guessed. At one point, she leaned back in her chair, eyes on the window. Do you ever wonder if life just skipped over you? Like everyone else got the answers in the back of the book, and you're still stuck on chapter 1. Her question hit deeper than she knew. I thought about my failed engagement, the years I'd spent working jobs that paid the bills but drained me dry. Every day, I said quietly. She turned back to me then, her eyes softer. That's why I said what I said. Because you don't see yourself the way others might. You don't see what I see. Before I could ask her what she meant, the moment was interrupted. The sound of a dog yapping outside, followed by Charlotte's voice calling sharply into the night. Through the curtain, I caught a glimpse of her. Our ever-watchful neighbor lingering on the sidewalk just a little too long. Sophia stiffened. She'll tell everyone she saw you here, she murmured. Let her, I said, but my stomach tightened. Later, walking home, the cool night air felt heavier than usual. I couldn't tell if it was the coffee in my veins or the weight of Sophia's words still burning in my head. Maybe both. The next day, my friend Lucas called. He'd heard something already. So, you and the widow, huh? Didn't think that was your type. He laughed, but there was a sharpness in it that cut me. I brushed it off, but inside I was unsettled. How fast did gossip travel here? And why did it matter so much to me if it did? That night, as I stood by my window, I saw her light flick on across the street. For a long time, I just watched that small square of yellow glow, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Connection. It scared me almost as much as it comforted me. Whispers spread faster than facts. Within days, I felt it in the air every time I walked down the street. Neighbors who used to wave now offered tight smiles. Conversations cut short as I passed. It was as if I had become a character in a story I hadn't written. I knew exactly where it started. Charlotte. She had seen me leaving Sophia's house late that night, and with her sharp eyes and sharper tongue, she wasted no time turning it into something else. By the weekend, Lucas called again. Man, you better watch yourself. People are saying you're involved with her. His tone carried more judgment than concern. I told him they were wrong, but the words sounded hollow even to me because deep down I wasn't sure what involved even meant anymore. I wasn't her boyfriend, not her husband, not even family. But I wasn't just her neighbor either. One afternoon, I was fixing my fence when Michael, the older man from across the street, came over. He leaned on the post, his face stern. Son, people talk for a reason. A woman like her, she's lived a life. Don't ruin yours by stepping where you don't belong. His words stung, though not for the reason he intended. It wasn't disapproval I heard. It was ownership, as if Sophia was still something to be controlled, even in widowhood. That evening, Sophia invited me over for dinner. I almost declined, worried about fueling the rumors. But the thought of her eating alone in that quiet house pulled me in. She had made pasta, simple but warm. And for the first time, I saw her laugh without restraint, her eyes lighting up like the years had slipped away. But then she noticed the tension in my shoulders. They've started talking, haven't they? I nodded. Charlotte, Michael, maybe others. She set her fork down, her face calm, but tired. I told myself I wouldn't care anymore, but I do. Not for me, for you. I don't want your life dragged through the mud because of me. Her words cut deeper than Michael's ever could. I leaned forward, meeting her eyes. You didn't drag me anywhere. I walked here. For a moment, the air between us was thick with unspoken truths. My heart raced, wanting to say more, to tell her how much those evenings with her meant, how much I looked forward to the sound of her voice. But fear held me back, the fear of crossing a line we couldn't uncross. Later that night, as I headed home, Charlotte was standing on her porch with her dog, watching. She didn't say a word, but her smirk said enough. I closed my door behind me, the house dark and empty, and I realized something. Gossip wasn't the real danger. The real danger was how much I wanted her, how much I was willing to risk just to sit across from her again. The storm rolled in on a Thursday evening. Clouds hung heavy, and by the time I got home, The first drops of rain had already begun to fall. I had barely set my keys down when the lights flickered, then went out completely, leaving me in darkness. Moments later came the knock, soft, hesitant, but unmistakable. When I opened the door, Sophia stood there, hair damp from the rain, a sweater clutched tight around her. "The power's out," she said quietly, almost apologetically. I didn't want to sit alone in the dark. I let her in without a word. Together, we lit a few candles, their glow painting the room in gold. The storm raged outside, wind howling, rain tapping against the windows. Inside, everything felt slowed, intimate, like time had chosen to pause for us. We sat across from each other at the table. Shadows flickered on her face, softening the years, bringing out a kind of fragile beauty I hadn't noticed before. She traced the rim of her cup with her fingertip, then looked up at me. "I was married for 27 years, she began, her voice steady but low. "And in all that time, I don't think I was ever truly seen. Not as a woman, not as someone who wanted warmth, laughter, partnership. I was a role wife, mother, widow, nothing more." Her confession struck something deep in me. I didn't speak. I just let her words fill the space. She gave a short laugh, though there was no humor in it. "I've been afraid, Ethan. Afraid that life has already passed me by. That what's left is just survival." Her eyes glistened in the candle light. "But when I'm with you, I feel something I thought was gone. I feel alive again, and that terrifies me." I swallowed hard, my own fears pressing in. "You think you're the only one terrified? I've spent years running from commitments, from anything that felt real. I told myself it was safer that way. But being with you, it scares me because it feels real in a way nothing else has." For a moment, neither of us moved. The storm outside crashed against the house, but it only made the silence between us louder. Then slowly she reached across the table, her hand trembling as it found mine. The touch was small, almost innocent, but it carried the weight of everything we hadn't said. I turned my hand to hold hers, and in that instant, the room felt different. Charged, fragile, alive. And then, as if the universe refused to let us have this moment, voices pierced the storm. Through the roar of rain came Charlotte's sharp tone, cutting through the night. "See, I told you. Look at them." Another voice, lower and angrier. Michael added, shameful. "She should know better." Sophia's grip on my hand faltered, fear flashing in her eyes. "They'll never stop," she whispered. "They'll tear us apart before this even begins." Something inside me broke. I stood, my voice harsher than I intended. "Let them talk. They don't know you. They don't know me. They don't get to decide what this is." She rose too, the candle light catching her face. For once, she didn't look like the composed widow or the elegant neighbor. She looked vulnerable, searching, almost pleading. "Then tell me, Ethan, what is this?" Her question hung between us, heavier than the storm. I opened my mouth, but no answer came because whatever this was, it had already gone beyond anything I'd imagined, and there was no turning back. The storm left more than fallen branches and puddles. By morning, the whole neighborhood seemed to know. Every glance, every whisper as I walked down the street carried the same story. Me and Sophia trapped in gossip we hadn't asked for. That weekend, the community gathered at the town hall. Normally, it was about small things. Parking complaints, lawn regulations, but that night, the air felt heavy, charged. I almost didn't go, but Sophia insisted. "If we don't face them, they'll think they've already won." The hall buzzed when we walked in together. Conversations dipped, heads turned. Charlotte sat in the front row, her little dog in her lap like a prop. Michael stood beside her, arms folded, ready to pour gasoline on the fire. The meeting moved through formalities until Charlotte rose. Her voice was sweet, but it dripped with poison. "We all value respectability in our neighborhood," she began. "But some of us are concerned about appearances, about choices that may not set the right example." She let the silence do the rest, her eyes sliding toward Sophia and me. I felt Sophia shrink beside me, her hand trembling. Something in me snapped. Before I realized it, I was on my feet. Enough. The word came sharper than I meant, but it froze the room. I looked straight at Charlotte, then at the others. You think you know her? You don't. You think you're protecting morality? You're not. You're tearing down a woman who's already had to rebuild her life from the ground up. Sophia is kind. She is strong. She deserves respect, not your whispers. The room went still. Some neighbors shifted uncomfortably. Others lowered their eyes. Michael muttered something under his breath, but no one echoed him. For the first time, Charlotte's smirk faltered. Beside me, Sophia's eyes filled with tears, though she blinked them away before they could fall. She whispered so only I could hear. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I said firmly. I did. We left the hall together, the buzz of voices following us out into the cool night. Outside under the streetlights, Sophia stopped. She looked at me the way she had that first evening in her kitchen. Steady, unflinching. Ethan, she said softly, when I told you that you'd have been a wonderful husband, I meant it. And now I believe it even more. Her hand brushed mine, a simple touch that carried everything words couldn't. For a moment, the world around us fell away. The whispers, the judgment, the fear. All that remained was her hand and mine. Her eyes on mine and the fragile, undeniable truth between us. I don't know what tomorrow will bring. Maybe the gossip will fade. Maybe it won't. Maybe we'll stand the test of time. Or maybe this is just a fleeting chapter. But as we walked home side by side, I knew one thing with absolute certainty.